Strength is not loud. It does not scream. It does not argue. It does not beg to be seen. Emotional and mental strength begins with awareness, not control, not suppression. Awareness. A strong woman does not pretend. She has no emotions. She does not numb herself to avoid discomfort. She does not deny anger, sadness, jealousy, or fear. Instead, she watches them. She observes them the way someone watches clouds move across the sky. Present, visible, but never permanent. When anger rises, she does not immediately react. She does not allow her words to become weapons. She feels the heat in her chest, the tightening in her jaw, the impulse to respond, and she pauses. In that pause, she creates space. And in that space, she regains power, because reaction is automatic, but response is intentional. Most people are controlled by their emotions because they identify with them. They say, "I am angry," instead of, "Anger is present." The difference is subtle, but powerful. When she understands that emotions are experiences and not her identity, she stops being ruled by them. She realizes that feelings are signals, not commands. Sadness may visit her. It may sit heavily on her shoulders, but she does not resist it, nor does she drown in it. She allows herself to feel it fully without dramatizing it. She does not turn one painful moment into a story about her entire life. She understands that pain is temporary, even when it feels overwhelming. Fear may whisper doubts into her mind. It may question her worth, her abilities, her future. But she listens calmly. She asks herself, is this fear protecting me or limiting me? Is it based on truth or on past wounds? By questioning her emotions, instead of blindly obeying them, she gains clarity. This habit requires discipline. It requires slowing down when everything inside you wants to react quickly. It requires breathing deeply when your heart is racing. It requires silence when your ego wants to defend itself. And in that silence, she learns something important. Emotions lose intensity when they are observed without resistance. She no longer sends impulsive messages she will regret later. She no longer makes permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. She understands that one emotional moment should not define her character or her future. Observing emotions also means taking responsibility for them. She does not blame others for how she feels. She understands that while others may trigger her, the reaction belongs to her. This realization is not weakness, it is maturity. It gives her control over her inner world. With time, this awareness creates emotional stability. She becomes steady, predictable in her calmness, grounded in her reactions. People around her begin to feel safe in her presence because she is not explosive or chaotic. She does not create storms over small inconveniences. This does not mean she becomes cold. It means she becomes centered. She can love deeply without losing herself. She can care intensely without becoming consumed. She can feel strongly without becoming unstable. By observing her emotions instead of being ruled by them, she builds a quiet strength. A strength that is not dramatic, but powerful. A strength that comes from mastery of the self, and mastery of the self is the highest form of power. A mentally strong woman understands that boundaries are not barriers against love. They are foundations for respect. Without boundaries, kindness becomes exhaustion, generosity becomes resentment, and compassion slowly turns into self-abandonment. She has learned, often through pain, that saying yes to everything means saying no to herself. So she begins to choose differently, not from anger, not from rebellion, but from clarity. When something feels wrong, she does not ignore the feeling. She does not silence her intuition to avoid disappointing someone. She listens. She pauses. And when necessary, she says no, calmly, firmly, without apology, for protecting her peace. This is not easy, especially for a woman who has been praised for being accommodating, for being understanding, for being selfless. Society often rewards women for overextending themselves, for tolerating what hurts them, for keeping the peace at their own expense. But emotional strength requires unlearning this pattern. She no longer explains herself endlessly to people who refuse to understand. She does not over-justify her decisions. No, becomes a complete sentence. Not sharp, not defensive, just steady. Guilt may arise at first. The discomfort of setting boundaries can feel heavier than the discomfort of staying silent. But she reminds herself discomfort is temporary, resentment is lasting. Each time she honors her limit, she strengthens her self-trust. She understands that boundaries teach people how to treat her. If she tolerates disrespect, disrespect continues. If she tolerates inconsistency, inconsistency becomes normal. But when she calmly communicates what is acceptable and what is not, she raises the standard of every relationship in her life. Boundaries are not about controlling others. She does not demand that people change. She simply decides what she will and will not participate in. If someone crosses her line repeatedly, she adjusts her access. Not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. She stops answering calls that drain her energy. She distances herself from conversations filled with gossip and negativity. She no longer sacrifices her sleep, her goals, or her mental health to meet expectations that do not align with her values. There is strength in restraint. She does not argue loudly to prove her point. She does not fight to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding her. She steps back. She protects her space. She chooses dignity over drama. A strong woman also respects the boundaries of others because she knows that mutual respect creates healthy connection. She does not cling. She does not demand constant reassurance. She understands that independence strengthens relationships, not weakens them. Over time, something powerful happens. The people who value her stay. The people who only valued her convenience fade away, and she accepts this without bitterness. Not everyone is meant to have full access to her time, her energy, or her heart. Setting boundaries is an act of self-worth. It is a declaration that her time is valuable. Her emotions are important. Her well-being matters. She no longer negotiates her peace for temporary approval. In choosing boundaries without guilt, she chooses herself. And in choosing herself, she becomes emotionally unshakable, steady, respected, and deeply aligned with who she truly is. Growth is rarely comfortable. It asks you to release what feels familiar. It asks you to question what you once believed. It asks you to step into spaces where you are no longer certain, no longer confident, no longer in control. Most people resist this feeling. They cling to what is known, even when it limits them. But a mentally strong woman understands that comfort can quietly become a cage. She notices when her life feels too predictable, too safe, too small. Instead of numbing that discomfort with distractions, she leans into it. She asks herself difficult questions. Where am I settling? Where am I shrinking to fit into spaces that no longer reflect who I am becoming? Where am I choosing convenience over potential? Growth begins with honesty. Honest self-reflection requires courage. It requires admitting when she is wrong. It requires recognizing patterns that have caused her pain. She does not blame every failed relationship on the other person. She examines her own choices. She studies her reactions. She asks what she tolerated, what she ignored, what she feared. This is not self-criticism. It is self-awareness. She understands that growth does not come from shame. It comes from responsibility. When she sees her flaws clearly, she does not collapse under them. She works on them, quietly, consistently. She reads to expand her perspective. She seeks conversations that challenge her thinking. She listens more than she speaks when she knows there is something to learn. She does not feel threatened by people who are more knowledgeable or more experienced. Instead of comparison, she chooses inspiration. Choosing growth also means embracing discomfort in action. She applies for opportunities that intimidate her. She speaks up even when her voice shakes. She sets goals that require discipline, not just desire. She understands that confidence is not built before action. It is built through action. There will be moments when she fails, when effort does not produce immediate results, when she feels behind. In those moments, comfort will whisper to her. It will tell her to stop trying, to lower her expectations, to return to what feels easy. But she recognizes that voice. She has heard it before, and she does not obey it. Instead, she reframes failure. Failure becomes feedback. It becomes information. It shows her where to adjust, where to improve, where to strengthen. She does not interpret setbacks as proof of inadequacy. She sees them as part of the process. Growth also requires letting go. Letting go of outdated identities. Letting go of relationships that no longer align. Letting go of habits that once felt soothing but now feel limiting. This release can feel painful, like shedding an old layer of skin. But she trusts that expansion requires space. She understands that the woman she wants to become cannot live the same way she always has. So she evolves deliberately, step by step, day by day. Not dramatically, not loudly, but intentionally. While others chase comfort, she chases alignment. While others avoid discomfort, she studies it. Because she knows something simple and powerful. The edge of discomfort is the doorway to transformation. And each time she walks through it, she becomes stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. Discipline is quiet. It does not announce itself with excitement. It does not wait for the perfect mood. It does not depend on inspiration. A mentally strong woman understands that motivation is unreliable. Some days it is high. Some days it disappears without warning. If she only moved when she felt inspired, her progress would be inconsistent, fragile, easily broken. So she builds discipline instead. She wakes up when she said she would wake up, not because she feels energetic, but because she made a commitment. She completes her responsibilities, even when no one is watching. She keeps promises to herself with the same seriousness she keeps promises to others. In doing so, she strengthens something deeper than productivity. She strengthens self-trust. Every time she follows through despite resistance, she proves to herself that her word has value. And that internal respect becomes a source of quiet confidence. There are mornings when she feels tired, evenings when she feels distracted, days when doubt tries to convince her that skipping one habit will not matter. But she understands that strength is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in small, repeated actions. One workout, one chapter read, one difficult task completed without delay. These actions seem ordinary, but over time they shape her identity. She does not rely on bursts of passion. Passion fades. Discipline remains steady. She creates routines that support her goals because she knows that structure protects her from impulsive decisions. When her schedule is intentional, she wastes less time negotiating with herself. Discipline also protects her emotions. Instead of reacting to every urge, she practices restraint. If she feels like sending an emotional message, she waits. If she feels like abandoning a long-term goal for short-term comfort, she pauses. She gives herself space to choose wisely rather than impulsively. This restraint builds power, because power is not loud control over others. It is quiet control over oneself. She understands that the life she desires, stability, independence, clarity, cannot be built on feelings alone. Feelings change with the weather, with hormones, with circumstances. But disciplined action creates predictable progress. And predictable progress creates confidence. Over time, discipline simplifies her life. She spends less energy debating whether she should do what she already decided to do. She removes unnecessary choices that drain willpower. She prepares in advance. She plans ahead. She reduces chaos through preparation. There will be seasons when motivation returns strongly. During those times, her disciplined foundation allows her to accelerate. But even when motivation disappears, she continues moving. Slowly, steadily, without drama. This consistency makes her reliable, not only to others, but to herself. She becomes someone who finishes what she starts. Someone who does not collapse under temporary discomfort. Someone who values long-term peace over short-term pleasure. Through discipline, she builds resilience. Through resilience, she builds confidence. And through confidence, she moves through life with calm certainty. Not because everything is easy, but because she knows she can rely on herself, regardless of how she feels. Taking responsibility for her life is one of the most powerful decisions a woman can make. It is not about blaming herself for everything that has gone wrong. It is about recognizing where her power begins and where excuses end. A mentally strong woman understands that she cannot control other people's actions. She cannot control betrayal, rejection, misunderstanding, or loss, but she can control her response. And in that response lies her freedom. It is easy to point outward, to say, they hurt me. They ruined my opportunity. They held me back. These statements may contain truth. Pain may have been caused by others. But if she remains focused only on what was done to her, she slowly gives away her power. She becomes trapped in a story where she is always the victim and never the author. So she shifts her perspective. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? She asks, what can I learn from this? Instead of replaying the injustice repeatedly in her mind, she looks for the lesson hidden inside it. Responsibility begins with awareness. She examines her patterns honestly. If she keeps attracting the same type of unhealthy relationship, she does not simply blame fate. She asks herself what she is tolerating, what she is ignoring, what fear is causing her to accept less than she deserves. This level of honesty requires courage, because it is uncomfortable to admit that some of her pain may be connected to her own decisions. But she does not approach this realization with shame. She approaches it with maturity. Taking responsibility means she stops waiting to be rescued. She does not expect someone else to fix her confidence, her finances, her discipline, or her happiness. She understands that dependency creates instability. If her peace depends entirely on someone else's behavior, then her peace is fragile. So she builds from within. If she feels insecure, she works on her skills. If she feels lost, she seeks knowledge. If she feels emotionally reactive, she studies her triggers. She becomes proactive instead of reactive. Responsibility also means accepting consequences. When she makes a mistake, she admits it. She apologizes if necessary. She corrects her course. She does not protect her ego at the cost of her growth. She understands that accountability strengthens character. There are moments when life feels unfair, when circumstances are difficult despite her best efforts. Even then, she asks herself, what is within my control right now? It may be small, her attitude, her next action, her preparation, but she focuses on that small area of control and moves forward. This mindset transforms her from passive to powerful. She no longer feels helpless in her own story. She becomes decisive, clear, grounded. By taking full responsibility for her life, she reclaims authority over her future. She stops being defined by what happened to her and starts being defined by how she responds. And through that ownership, she builds an inner stability that no external situation can easily shake. Protecting her inner peace becomes a daily practice, not a temporary reaction. A mentally strong woman understands that peace is fragile if it is not guarded with intention. The world is loud, opinions are constant, expectations are endless. If she absorbs everything, she will eventually feel overwhelmed and disconnected from herself. So she becomes selective with what she listens to, selective with who she spends time with, selective with the environments she allows herself to remain in. Not from arrogance, but from awareness. She knows that energy is contagious. Negativity spreads quickly. Chaos pulls attention away from clarity. She no longer feels obligated to attend every argument she is invited to. When someone tries to provoke her, she does not immediately react. She pauses and asks herself, is this worth my peace? Many times, the answer is no, and so she walks away, not because she is weak, but because she is disciplined. There was a time when she may have felt the need to prove herself, to defend every misunderstanding, to correct every false assumption. But she has learned that constant defense is exhausting. Not everyone deserves access to her explanations. Not every opinion requires her response. Silence becomes her shield. Distance becomes her protection. Protecting her peace also means limiting exposure to unnecessary drama. She does not entertain gossip. She does not engage in conversations that revolve around tearing others down. She understands that the mind absorbs what it repeatedly hears. If she surrounds herself with negativity, her thoughts will slowly reflect it. She chooses calm spaces, conversations that inspire growth, relationships that feel stable rather than chaotic. She pays attention to how she feels after interacting with someone, energized or drained, clear or confused, supported or unsettled. These signals guide her decisions. There will be moments when protecting her peace requires difficult choices, walking away from a relationship that disrupts her stability, setting boundaries with family, reducing contact with people she once felt close to. These decisions are not made lightly. They may bring sadness, but she knows that temporary discomfort is better than constant inner conflict. She also protects her peace internally. She monitors her self-talk. When her mind begins replaying old mistakes or imagined fears, she redirects her focus. She practices grounding herself in the present moment, breathing slowly, observing her surroundings, returning to now. She understands that peace is not the absence of problems. Problems will always exist. Peace is the ability to remain centered despite them. It is emotional regulation in the middle of uncertainty. By protecting her inner peace, she becomes steady, predictable in her calmness. She does not rise and fall with every external event. She moves thoughtfully instead of impulsively. Over time, this protection builds quiet strength. People may misinterpret her distance as indifference. But it is not indifference. It is discernment. She values her mental clarity too much to trade it for temporary validation, attention, or drama. And in choosing peace repeatedly, she becomes unshakable from within. Strength is not something a woman is born with. It is something she builds quietly, patiently, intentionally. It is built when she chooses awareness over reaction, when she chooses boundaries over guilt, when she chooses growth over comfort, when she chooses discipline over mood, when she chooses responsibility over blame, when she chooses peace over chaos. Emotional and mental strength is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not seek validation. It is steady, grounded, rooted within. A strong woman is not one who never struggles. She is one who faces her struggles without losing herself. She feels deeply, yet remains centered. She loves fully, yet protects her boundaries. She dreams boldly, yet works consistently. Over time, these habits shape her character. They refine her reactions. They sharpen her judgment. They calm her mind. And slowly, she becomes someone who cannot be easily shaken by opinions, circumstances, or temporary storms. She does not chase power over others. She masters power over herself. And that is the highest form of strength, not perfection, not control over everything, but control over her own mind, her own actions, and her own peace. When a woman reaches this level of awareness and discipline, she does not need to announce her strength. It is felt in her presence, in her calm voice, in her steady decisions, in the quiet confidence with which she walks her path. She bends when necessary, she adapts when required, but she does not break because she is rooted within herself. And a woman who is rooted within herself is unstoppable.